Over the past 5 weeks, I guess, I've put out a few videos on Kabbalah and the Tree of Life, and I wanted to share with you today what's the point? What's the use of all of this information? It's quite heavy, dense information, and if it's not clear how it's going to be useful, then I guess it's a little bit more difficult to take in. But if you've got an idea of how you're going to be using it, possibly you'll find it more palatable along the way. Who knows? I wanted to share with you how I've been using this information, or rather how it's been useful for me over the past 10 years, I guess, that I've been, that I've known about the Tree of Life, and that it's enriched my life through study and through exposure and through just general use. So there are 4 points that I'd like to address, and the first is 4 points of use, as it were. Then the first is information. So just from a purely informational point of view, the Tree of Life is for me a map of the way I exist. Right? I in fact think of the Tree of Life as a model of me, with my conscious mind down here, and then various areas of my mind being less and less easily accessible as I climb the Tree of Life towards Kether at the top. It's a map of the universe for me, and I use it regularly in my everyday life to think, okay, well, this experience was very much of that sphere of Jupiter, or of that sphere of Saturn, or whatever it is, whether it's an experience or well, there's very little in this world that's not an experience, right? But whether it's a conversation or an object or any kind of interaction, I find it very useful to place these things on the Tree of Life, to understand where they've come from and how best to deal with them. So I guess this is something that I can only point at for those of you who have not been using the Tree of Life, and say to you that once you have been studying this for a little while, and you have been identifying things around you that fit into one or the other category, then this starts happening naturally for you. The more you do it, the more it becomes natural to do it, and the more useful it becomes, because you can anticipate what's going to come next. You can feel less a victim of it. You can be less afraid of whatever it is you might be afraid of, or you can be less attached to whatever it is that you're feeling attached to, and so on and so forth, because you have a model of where it's coming from, where it's going, and I find it very useful. I find it an anchor in my life. I find it, it is. So there we go. So point number 1 is just from an informational point of view, seeing it as a map of the universe. From a so point 2 is path working. I use the Tree of Life, not so much recently, but originally I did this quite a lot. It's called path working. Now, this might be something that's very familiar to some of you, path working. It's something that I picked up in this book, although a lot of you may have read The Garden of Pomegranates by Israel Regardie. Magical States of Consciousness introduced me to the Garden of path working. This particular work was published for the very first time in, I guess, is it 1985. That would make sense. This is a second edition from 2012. And what it is, it's a guided meditation along the paths and spheres of the Tree of Life. So all of this happens in your imagination. And the theory is that once you start imagining yourself in a particular sphere, and you surround yourself with the elements that you know come from that sphere, and you focus on those, then your imagination naturally brings in other elements that belong in that sphere. And the theory is that because we are, in fact, all one big consciousness that has this part of it that feels individual, but in fact, in the background, we've got this collective subconscious, which we can all draw from. Well, I'd love to make another video entirely on that, actually. Maybe in the future, little aside. But yeah, if you think of your conscious mind as being you, or rather the individual aspect of you, and then everything else being kind of a big pool that every individual draws from, then yes, it makes sense that if you're imagining yourself up here, then you'll be able to observe what's around you, being comfortable and confident that what you're observing is not just coming from your individual imagination, the way most people think about imagination, right? We think that imagination is singular to us and confined within our brain, right? But actually, we know very little about how imagination works, and this model suggests that imagination is in fact shared. So path working is the practice of possibly closing your eyes and imagining that you are in maybe something that represents Earth for you, seeing maybe just symbols that represent Earth and so on and so forth, and then looking around you and seeing what else is there, and being very conscious of what you see, and maybe making a mental note of what you see, and then finding a door to a path in your imagination that has the symbol that represents this 30-second path, this is Tao, I believe. Yes, this is you imagine a door with a big Tao on it, and you walk through it, and you have a look around, and you see what you see, and then you make a mental note of all of that, and you can experience the whole of the Tree of Life up to about here, just by doing that. Going beyond takes more practice and more experience. I have not been beyond. I know about it theoretically, but it's kind of tough to get to these higher levels because they are so abstract. So that's path working for you, and I rather recommend this. I find that the language is not particularly good for capturing your imagination. Nevertheless, everything in there is it's top quality. It's just that I don't feel like necessarily Denning and Phillips have mastered the narrative language. It all feels a little bit abstract, and your mind tends to wander. There's not enough to really put you back in the world of imagination. Anyway. Whatever. So some people might actually 100% resonate with that particular book. I haven't read The Garden of Pomegranates. People swear by it. There you go. That's all I can tell you. All right. So that's the second thing, is path working. The third thing is just low magic. And by low magic, I mean making effects in the world, right? I want a particular effect. I want an interview to go well. There's a particular object that I strongly desire. There is whatever it might be. It's so low magic is the not necessarily opposite to high magic, which is all about realizing divinity. But rather, low magic is just anything to do with making your physical condition more comfortable, right? And yes, the Kabbalah is, or rather, the Tree of Life is a tremendous tool for that, because you can decide where the object of your desire resides on the Tree of Life, and then perform any ritual that you have from that place, right? So let's say you want a book. In my case, it usually tends to be a book. Then I would maybe spend some of my ritual time in Hod, and right, which is where information is, and reading, and writing, and intellectual matters. And I might also spend some time in Jupiter, which is everything to do with expansion and wealth and abundance and things like this. And if I was after a particularly beautiful book, maybe I'd spend some time over here in Netzach, and maybe in Tifereth also, which represents beauty. So over here we have emotions and love, and over here beauty. If, for example, I wanted something to do with defending my family, right? Or I'm recording this in at the end of my first week of confinement. The world is gripped by coronavirus. Maybe I would spend some time in Mars, in Geburah, thinking about defense, thinking about pushing out an attack. And maybe I'd spend some time over here in Saturn, thinking about the impermanent nature of life, and of but also of a situation, right? I don't want to be confined at home for the rest of eternity. So putting an end to a situation would certainly happen over here. So there we go. That gives you an idea. This book by Rufus Opus, Seven Spheres, goes into quite a bit of detail on the seven planetary spheres. Right, these seven here. We have the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So these are really the ones that I spend quite a bit of time in for any low magic ritual or working that I'm doing. All right, I'm looking around me, and I'm seeing, of course, that. I've got the I Ching out, and the Odyssey. I wanted to, of course, bring your attention to the fact that I use the tarot, right? I use the tarot also for divination. Whenever I have a situation that I can't see an answer to, I do use the tarot for answers. And you'll have seen in my previous video that the way I use the tarot is directly related to the Tree of Life. The reason I've got the Odyssey and the I Ching is because they are pretty much the same thing, right? They are maps of the universe. Well, at least the I Ching is a map of the universe quite explicitly, right? And picking at random an aspect of the universe can give you the answer that you are looking for. People use all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be the I Ching or the tarot, but when something is sufficiently complex and sufficiently beautiful, it seems to be, then you can just use it for divination. Maybe I'll make another video about that. But the Odyssey, in fact, the full work of Homer, has been used for bibliomancy, right? Where you can just pick a page and a sentence and hope that is going to be not hope, but that is going to be the direct message for you. All right. I digress. Coming back to my fourth and final use for the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life is illumination. And this is something that, okay, let me explain what I mean by illumination. By illumination, I mean a realization of what I am. And how does this work? Well, because I have spent quite a bit of time categorizing absolutely every aspect of my experience, right? Whether it's a color or a thought or an object, a person, a situation, a place, whatever it is, after applying the Tree of Life to that thing for a while, you tend, or rather I have tended to do it naturally. So whatever I saw after being engrossed in this after doing this for a while, I was doing it naturally, right? I would meet someone and I'd be like, oh, they're very much from that sphere or that sphere, and their clothes are very much from over here, right? Or their this pen that I'm writing with, I mean, that's clearly from here, and I'm drawing, and that's from over here, and and I'm using lots of colors, and it's from over here, and it's coming from my imagination over, etc. So every single aspect of my life, after a while, I was categorizing, and it came to the point where I got to a point of exhaustion. It didn't take very long. Took just a few days, and I found that there was nothing that I could turn to that that wasn't something else, right? Once you start categorizing things, this becomes that, and everything that's in here becomes the same thing, right? And the only escape that I had was the singularity of my mind, right? Finding a central point to stop, and I realized, oh, this thing that has stopped, I'm not sure where to place that. And that was a tremendous relief, and it was also a really nice moment of, oh yeah, that's what I am. I'm not this thought or that thought. So very much what people talk of as the point of meditation, right? To realize what I am. So there we go. The four main benefits that I have experienced from studying the Tree of Life and Kabbalah in general. Guys, I hope you've found the video vaguely useful. I've just realized I brought out the Arbatel and didn't talk about that. It's very much in the same vein as Seven Spheres. Seven Spheres is a modern working by Rufus Opus using the seven planets. The Arbatel is a classic grimoire. I can't remember. Is it 13th century or even earlier? Also using the seven planets. So that's why it's out on the table there. There we go. Thanks ever so much for watching. Please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and to subscribe down below. I hope you're all doing really well, and I hope that you're not getting too much cabin fever. We'll get through this one day at a time. And yeah, leave your comments down below. I'd be very interested to know how the Tree of Life has been useful to you. I'll speak to you very soon, and take care. Bye-bye.